joining us. Always good to talk to you.
Good morning, Peter, and thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so let's take a look at these elections in Malawi. I know as journalists we often say these are key, these are very important ones. Why, though, do you think these elections in particular are important in Malawi, domestically, and also perhaps in the wider region?
Thank you so much. First, I would like to say that domestically, elections are important because they are about livelihoods. First, when we went for pre-election assessment mission in Malawi, there was a huge comparison about how life was there in 2014, pre-2019, and how life has been over the past 5 years. There is a consensus among Malawian citizens that this election is important about deciding their future. So there is a visible deterioration of living standards among ordinary Malawians citizens. That's one important point around the economy. In terms of governance, I think the administration of President Chakwera has been seen to be complicit in terms of condoning corruption. It has been seen as it has failed to underperform, including making tangible efforts to sustain the livelihoods of citizens after the Cyclone Freddy, which hit the country so bad. And also, former President Peter Mutharika alleges that he left the country when he left office with 1.3 billion in the reserves, and the country is broke at the moment. So, and right now, for example, there are fuel shortages. So there are lots of economic challenges and also governance challenges. And also there are things that went unanswered, including the demise of the former vice president. So the nation is tense. State institutions are seen to be captured, particularly the police, which seem to condone the criminal behavior of members of the ruling party, among other things. So there is a belief that the administration of President Chakwera has put the country in a wrong trajectory among the Malawian citizens. So that's internally why they think that there is a hunger for change, particularly in terms of improving basic livelihoods. Then regionally, we've been seeing that our region has been going through the test, not only SADC, but ECOWAS, among others, where elections are being fraudulent, and then there is nothing tangible that happens at a regional level. So it's a moment again where our region is put to test and to see what it can do in case of a visible fraudulent election. And again, the issue of electoral commissions that are captured is an issue that is coming again and again. And in the case of Malawi, election is not an exception, where the leadership of Malawi Electoral Commission has seemed to have political affiliations. And also the technology that they're employing in this election are not trusted. They are being seen as a tool to rig the elections. So those are the issues in the electoral process at this stage.
I hate to draw comparisons often, but it's fascinating to me when I look at Zambia, for example, when both Chakwera and Hichilema were elected, there was massive hope. They were looking at change of systems, change of governance, a new order, as it were. And for some reason, when both came into power, much of what they complained about is what they're accused about doing in their administrations.
That's true. That perception is true. When we went to the pre-election assessment mission, we spoke with from both former presidents who are presidential candidates. Sorry, we have Madam Joyce Banda and former President Peter Mutharika, among other political parties. Also, we spoke with. They believe that when President Chakwera prior to office, he showed a different face. And when he came into office, he showed a different face. Particularly, they complained, particularly Madam Joyce Banda was critical to the formation of the coalition government of parties that came to form MCP or parties that came to form the government with the MCP. So you see that that change and that failure to honor coalition agreements, among others, has been, in the context of Malawi, has been seen as a deception. And as we speak, there's a likelihood that there's no political party that will gain 50+1 to secure presidency. And there's a likelihood of a conversation around coalition governments. Given the feedback that we had from political parties, nobody have confidence in the person of the incumbent, and they believe that the incumbent cannot keep any promise. So it also is going to be a very difficult journey should there be need for a coalition government. So that change of character, or that deception, that is has been a perception and a strong perception within the citizens of Malawi. Similarly, in the context of Zambia, those are the same issues also that came in so far as how governance has been administered to date, particularly failure to tolerate critical voices in the democratic space in the context of Zambia. While in the context of Malawi, except that I say there's been the feedback from presidential candidates running into this election.
So the Malawi Electoral Commission took center stage last elections. What's the state of the commission now, do you think? Can they deliver a free and fair election, or do you think they have been tainted?
Objectively speaking, despite the allegations of political affiliations of the chairperson of the commission and chief electoral officer, I do think that the electoral commission is in a position to deliver a credible election. Why I'm saying so, I've been observing the conduct of the commission for the past few months. They've exhibited professionalism. However, in certain instances, for example, refusal for audit, the reasons that they gave, they were very solid in terms of issues of protection of systems. But in terms of so far as their conduct and in terms of how they've engaged stakeholders, I do believe they are in a position to deliver credible elections. The challenge that is coming is this mathematical technology that they're employing. They're employing a technological tool for that to assist result tabulation at a time where the state is very tense. So the pre-election trial of the technology did not go so well. I'm afraid that could be a dent in terms of accusation of vote rigging. And secondly, there has been also a challenge in terms of how the commission itself communicated to the citizens about the usage of both manual and technology. They didn't, in my view, they did not communicate efficiently or repeatedly that they are not abandoning the manual process, but they are using technology to complement the manual processes. So that communication, we emphasized that it should happen. It has happened, but in my belief, it has not simmered to the citizens. So the challenge will be around issues that are employing technology. That would if technology fails, it can falsify those, it can validate those perceptions of vote rigging. But in my belief and my analysis of the commission, I think it has performed extraordinarily well in terms of communication to the stakeholders. In the past few years, I've not seen a commission that has been very proactive like the Malawi Electoral Commission in the past few months. So I think they're in a position to deliver a credible election. All eyes are watching them. It's a very tense election. What could fail them is the systems that they are employing in place, which can cause chaos.
Do you think there might be some voter apathy? If we look at South Africa, over time, people vote, and then when they see that their lives are not improving or changing significantly, they start to lose faith that elections can deliver a better day. Might this be kicking in Malawi because they've seen shifts in terms of governments, but life doesn't seem to be changing all that much?
So I do believe that the electoral process itself. Sorry, Peter, could you go? Could you come again on your question?
All right. I was just saying that is there a possibility of voter apathy in these
Okay.
elections, because in the past they voted for change, change came, but life didn't change.
So in terms of voter apathy, I was distracted with the letter that I was trying to think. So there's a letter that came from the Malawi Bishops' Conference in March, which showed that in this election is a choiceless election for Malawians. The Catholic Bishops' Conference were encouraging Malawians to choose a lesser evil. So this was a result of the realization that there could be voter apathy due to lack of choice. Lack of choice insofar as President Peter Mutharika, who is the main opposition, is 85 years old. And then there is visible decline in terms of his health and strength. While President Chakwera, who's the current incumbent, people have lost choice with him. So there is definitely it's a choiceless election, which may lead to voter apathy because there's very few options that are presented to the citizens insofar as the strong candidate who could change livelihoods. So the issue of voter apathy is something that is likely to happen. It's likely to also to happen in regions where there is a strong ruling party stronghold, and yet there's little change that has happened, and these may not want to give their votes to the opposition. And it also may happen where people also in a strongholds of opposition where they have no choice, but they do not also want to give their vote to any alternative party. So the likelihood of voter apathy comes in because of the quality of candidates in this election, particularly the presidential candidates. There is no visible candidate that has appeared to be the most best from the analysis that has happened through stakeholders and the church as well.
Could this then be a pivotal change moment for Malawi politics? As you said, it's unlikely that anybody was going to get 50+1 majority in the first round of these elections. Maybe we'll see a South African type scenario where coalitions will really become the order of the day. What might that mean for Malawi going forward?
It could be a moment of pivotal change, but also it's going to be a very hard moment. Why? The presidential candidates, like I said, that there's likelihood of 50+1 is very small. The presidential candidates do not have trust in a meaningful conversation with the incumbent. So should a need for talks around coalition government arise, it is going to be very challenging. It's going to be very challenging even for the incumbent to bargain, because I think what has happened in the past leading to the demise of the former vice president, the disregard of the coalition agreements that he was supposed to run one term and hand over the baton, the mysterious death or so forth, and among other deception that has been raised by political leaders, it's going to be very hard. For instance, Madam Joyce Banda, I believe when we had a conversation with her son was she was critical to the formation of the coalition government, the current administration. Her son also was was given a ministerial position. I think it was part of the deal. And then the son was fired within 2 months, which was also a disregard of the owner of the coalition, that political representation was critical. So such distrust among political leadership would be very a big challenge into a new administration. It is a moment that presents change. It is a moment that presents political leadership to find each other in Malawi, but it's going to be a very tough. It is going to be a very tough moment. And lastly, I would like to say that I think we are also likely to see a rerun because smaller political, there are 17 candidates, and at least the top 5 going to split the votes significantly. And then each political party that will split vote, who make it very difficult for a single political party to secure 50+1. So we are likely also to expect a rerun in the event that there is no, in the likelihood that there's huge splits of vote among political leaders.
I think at the beginning, you probably gave us quite a few clues, but what really is at stake in these elections? What are Malawians voting for or voting against?
Malawians are voting for better livelihoods. Malawians are voting against a leadership that is deceptive. Malawians are voting for a future, for their future. As we speak, there's a few crisis in Malawi. There are lots of queues. I mean, I've been receiving videos, pictures, and read newspapers in the morning. Fuel shortages affect business. Fuel shortages affect logistics, both the private and public. Election observation missions on the ground, they might face challenges in terms of fuel, among other things. So it is a decisive moment where Malawians are voting for something they believe will bring better livelihoods for them. Particularly, there is strong comparison for what life was back then and what life is now. So the Malawians are voting for against an administration that is corrupt and against the administration that is driven by self enrichment, as we have seen in the current administration. So I do believe that, like any other election, it ultimately boils down to change of lives. It ultimately, when citizens go and cast their vote, they have a hope that the casting of the vote might bring food on the table, might make it easier for them to access basic needs that they need on day-to-day basis. And considering that Malawi is one of the poorest countries in Africa and perhaps in the world, that is always an issue. Administrations ought to change lives of the people they serve.
Is this election a battle between Chakwera and Mutharika, or is there a third candidate that could surprise?
Predominantly, it is a battle of two men, Chakwera and Mutharika. And these men, they've seen each other in the polls 3 times. They saw each other in 2014 for the first time, in 2019 twice. So these are the men who have seen each other 3 times on the ballot box. So definitely, they stand out as the key figures. Obviously, there is another political party. It's a smaller political party, but it is likely to align with Tarika should things come to the worst, UTM. And I do believe that it's a two-man race regardless.
So, those that may have buyer's remorse in terms of Chakwera, where will these votes go? Or will they just stay at home? Or will they swap sides and maybe say, he's not our first choice, but we're going back to Mutharika?
From the pre-election polls, I posted pre-election polls a few days ago on LinkedIn. They had the recent ones. They show that the opposition DPP for Peter Mutharika has favored 43% from the electorate, whereas MCP from the ruling party for Lazarus Chakwera has got 31%. And considering that there are fewer shortages, there are events, frustrating events that are frustrating voters in the eve of the election. The numbers for the opposition could actually go high, enabling them actually to secure close to 50% or something similar. So I do believe that the frustrated may either give one of the smaller political parties their votes, or they give it to the main opposition, which then, in a case where the main opposition has close to 50%, it could align with the smaller party, and then they could actually secure 50+1 and retain the presidency, which they lost in 2019.
So the last elections, we saw citizens go to the streets, a lot of passion. in terms of the first elections for sure. Do you think that there are any flashpoints in this one, or as you were saying, people just have given up and there's really no one to choose for, therefore no one to fight for?
I think the challenge could be with disinformation and misinformation, which has become a strong challenge in electoral processes. So disinformation and misinformation around the process itself, including the technology employed in elections, could actually cause protests should things do not go well, there'll be network challenges. I've observed elections in Namibia, for example, the voter management devices were overheating because of weather. In South Africa, of course, which the process was managed well, except the challenges that the voter management devices had issues. And these are places that have strong voter confidence. So in cases where there is, in like Malawi, there is deteriorating public trust in the process itself, the challenges that may arise might actually lead to protest. And I'm suspecting that protests could be, should things don't go well on the election day, protests could emerge a day after the elections, and people can go back to the street and complain about that they already expressed dissatisfaction with mathematic machines or mathematic technology that is being employed in this election. So the likelihood is there. And also there is a concern whether the police that in the pre-election campaign first, they did not do much in terms of election violence. Violence was being perpetrated in their presence. So there's a concern whether the police will be able to manage that. But luckily, we have seen since 14 July, when the election campaign started, that it has been predominantly a calm fair season, which stems from that the main opposition, Peter Mutharika, did not campaign so rigorously, but at the same time, the polls are in his favor. So this is how it is, because people are already frustrated with the current administration. The opposition did not do much in terms of campaigning, but the polls are in their favor.
And that's where we're going to have to leave it. Tendai, always great talking to you. Thank you so much. Your analysis greatly appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's Tendai Mbanje, who's a governance expert, LLD candidate at University of Pretoria. And he's been on election observer missions across the continent, so he pretty much knows what he's talking about. And giving us some thoughts about these elections, which are being described by some as choiceless elections. In other words, there's nobody that they're passionate about. So we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. It's 8:30.